Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church, and I'm here today to share another passage about the greatness of God. I hope you've thought about the first two. This is the middle of the week, and really the longest passage, but it's just a really special one. It comes from my friend Job. Now, why do I say he's my friend? Well, there was a time in my life when I lost just about everything. Wasn't as bad as Job, but it certainly was really awful. And I spent time working through that, and I can say today that God has restored all that I lost and more. Now, Job got 10 times more. I didn't get 10 times, but I'm not picky. I'm fine. But I think of Job as a friend who struggled through life and yet wouldn't give up on that one little thing that turned out to be the most important thing, and that was not giving up on God. So let me read to you a couple of verses from the 26th chapter of Job. The chapter only has 14 verses, and I'd read all of them, but I don't want to take up that much time. So let me just read a few of them. Job says, "How you have helped the powerless, how you have saved the weak, how you have enlightened my stupidity. What wise advice you have offered." And then he goes on and he talks about some specific things. And he gets to verse 14 and he says, "These are just the beginning of all the thing he," that's God, "does. Merely a whisper of his power. Who then can comprehend the thunder of his power?" Well, I encourage you to read the 26th chapter of Job. It's on page 546 in my Bible, if that helps you any. But this chapter, when it starts out, it's just an amazing series of compliments to God. How have you helped the powerless? How have you saved the weak? Well, if we think about that for a minute, we see that God's focus is on the people who need the help the most. Now, that's not to say he doesn't care about the powerful, excuse me, or he doesn't care about the strong. But the powerful and the strong have resources that they can use to help themselves. Now, they can't help themselves the way God does, and I don't want to equate that. But here the focus is on the ones who simply have no hope, the powerless and the weak. And maybe you feel powerless at times or weak. Maybe you feel it all the time. I know the incidents I'm thinking about with my life in Job, I was powerless. There wasn't one thing I could do to change my situation or what was happening. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. And at that moment, I knew that I had to honor God regardless. And I did what I could. And he honored me. But he goes on to say that you enlighten my stupidity. You know, I don't know about you, but I'm just going to say flat out, there are some times that I'm just stupid. I say the dumbest things. I do the craziest stuff. And I know better, but I just do. And God says, or Job says that God enlightened the stupidity. He helped me out. And maybe he's helped you out too. I'm just human. But then Job gets down to the end and he says, these are just the beginning of all the things he does. If you get out a sheet of paper and you make a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth, of the things that God does, and you're really sincere about it, you know what you're going to find out? You're going to find out that the more things you figure he does, the more things you think about he also does. It's like a bottomless pit. You can never get down to the bottom of God's ability. You can't run out or overrun his goodness and grace. You can't escape his power. Now you can choose not to walk with him. That's a different matter. And when my time came, I could have chosen that. I really could have. But not one time did I consider that. I knew that my hope was in God and God alone. Now, there were others doing things and other situations happening that all contributed to the full plan, but God was the director of the orchestra. And he's the director of the orchestra in your life, too. He's the one that calling this one to do and that one to do and bringing this one up and making this one louder and getting that one smaller. He's the one who's got his fingers in all of creation. And he's doing it on your behalf. And you know what? If you were the only person in the entire universe, he'd still do it just for you. That's how big God's grace and love and compassion for you is. And it's just the beginning. There's even more yet to come. So I hope you'll think about that today. I hope it will lift your spirit if it needs lifting. I hope it will encourage you. And I hope it will strengthen you in your walk today. Thanks so much for listening. If you have a prayer concern or need, call us. We'll do whatever we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. So until tomorrow, God bless you. I'll talk to you again.